Salam, kids! How are you all? Welcome to your channel Islam Station. Today we are going through a very interesting topic. We will talk about an animal called pig, its characteristics, and the prohibition about its meat. But first we will talk about the animal. Who are pigs? Pigs, scientifically known as scrofa domesticus, are among the most commonly domesticated animals worldwide. They are omnivores, consuming both plant and animal matter, which contributes to their reputation as animals that eat anything. Now, what is pork? The meat derived from pigs is called pork. Pork is a significant component of the diet in many cultures, especially in Western and East Asian countries. But being a Muslim, can we eat pork? A big no. In Islam, the consumption of pork is strictly prohibited. It is harmful in many ways. Some harmful effects of pork are discussed further. Number 1, parasitic infection. Pork can be a source of parasitic infections such as trichinosis, caused by the Trichinella spiralis worm, and teniasis, caused by the Taenia solium tapeworm. These parasites can lead to serious health issues, including gastrointestinal problems and neurological disorders. Number 2, bacterial contamination. Pork is susceptible to bacterial contamination by pathogens such as Salmonella and E. coli, which can cause foodborne illnesses. Proper handling and cooking are necessary to minimize these risks, but the potential for contamination remains. Number 3, high saturated fats and cholesterol level. Pork, especially certain cuts, is high in saturated fats and cholesterol. Excessive consumption of these can lead to cardiovascular diseases, including hypertension, atherosclerosis, and increased risk of heart attacks and strokes. Number 4, inflammation properties. Some studies suggest that pork consumption can contribute to inflammation in the body. Chronic inflammation is linked to various health issues, including metabolic syndrome, diabetes, and certain types of cancer. Number 5, toxins and hormones. Modern farming practices often involve the use of hormones and other chemicals to promote growth in pigs. These substances can accumulate in the meat and potentially cause adverse health effects in humans, including hormonal imbalances and increased cancer risk. Prohibition of pork in Islam. The prohibition of pork in Islam is explicitly mentioned in the Quran. Several verses address this prohibition directly. Surah Al-Baqarah 2:173. He has only forbidden to you dead animals, blood, the flesh of pig, and that which has been dedicated to other than Allah. But whoever is forced by necessity, neither desiring it nor transgressing its limit, there is no sin upon him. Indeed, Allah is forgiving and merciful. Surah Al-An'am 6:145. Say, I do not find, within that which was revealed to me, anything forbidden to one who would eat it unless it be a dead animal or blood spilled out or the flesh of swine. For indeed it is impure, or it be that slaughtered in disobedience, dedicated to other than Allah. But whoever is forced by necessity, neither desiring it nor transgressing its limit, then indeed your Lord is forgiving and merciful. According to Hadith. Hadith 22:36, narrated Abu Hurairah. The Messenger of Allah, PBUH, said, Allah has forbidden the sale of wine, dead meat, swine, and idols. Now we will talk about pigs and their impurity in other religions. The concept of pigs being impure is not unique to Islam. Various religions and cultures have their own views on the consumption and symbolic significance of pigs. Here, we explore how different religious traditions regard pigs and their impurity. In Judaism, the consumption of pork is strictly forbidden, similar to Islamic dietary laws. This prohibition is outlined in the Torah, the central reference of the religious Judaic tradition. Biblical references: Leviticus 11:7-8. And the pig, though it has a divided hoof, does not chew the cud. It is unclean for you. You must not eat their meat or touch their carcasses. They are unclean for you. Deuteronomy 14:8. The pig is also unclean. Although it has a divided hoof, it does not chew the cud. You are not to eat their meat or touch their carcasses. Christianity's stance on the consumption of pork varies among its denominations. While early Christians adhered to the dietary laws of the Old Testament, the New Testament introduces a more lenient perspective. New Testament perspective. Mark 7:18-19. "Are you so dull?" he asked. "Don't you see that nothing that enters a person from the outside can defile them? For it doesn't go into their heart, but into their stomach, and then out of the body." This passage suggests a shift from the strict dietary laws of the Old Testament, indicating that all foods, including pork, are permissible for Christians. However, some Christian denominations, particularly Seventh-day Adventists, continue to observe Old Testament dietary laws and abstain from pork. Hinduism does not have a blanket prohibition against pork, but dietary practices vary widely among different communities and regions. Cultural practices. While pork is not universally forbidden in Hinduism, many Hindus, particularly those in higher castes or those who follow a vegetarian diet for religious reasons, abstain from meat altogether, including pork. Buddhism does not have explicit prohibitions against the consumption of pork, but the dietary practices of Buddhists can vary significantly. Monastic rules. In Theravada Buddhism, monks traditionally eat whatever food is offered to them by lay people, which can include pork. However, the emphasis is on non-attachment to food rather than the type of food itself. Mahayana Buddhism, particularly in East Asia, has a stronger tradition of vegetarianism influenced by the principle of ahimsa, non-violence. In these traditions, pork and other meats are often avoided to prevent harm to living beings. Hence, the prohibition of pork in Islam is grounded in religious texts and supported by scientific evidence, highlighting its potential health risks. The Quranic verses clearly state the impermissibility of consuming pork, emphasizing its impurity and potential harm. Health hazards. From a health perspective, avoiding pork can help mitigate the risks associated with parasitic infections, bacterial contamination, high saturated fat intake, inflammation, and exposure to toxins and hormones. Therefore, the prohibition of pork in Islam serves both a spiritual and a practical purpose, aligning religious obedience with health and well-being. So kids say, a big no to pigs and its meat, and consume pure and halal food blessed by Allah. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more interesting videos. Allah Hafiz.